We are pleased to welcome our next speaker, Sofia van Berlekom, who has worked with risk management for the better part of her career. She has been working with AstraZeneca for over 24 years in different capacities. For the past 6 years, she's been working as a senior expert in risk management, her most recent title being Risk, Business Continuity and Compliance Director at AstraZeneca Sweden. Problem solving, improving and simplifying processes and ways of working are her main drivers and contributions in the role. She is of the opinion that risk management is a powerful tool to help find your weak spots as well as identify your strengths to put your resources where they bring most value. Risk management supports transparency and an open climate, which is one of the pillars of a truly ethical company.
Welcome to this talk, and I'm going to talk about risk management and risk identification. And you might wonder, what is it doing in a conference about ethics and compliance? But my true belief is that risk management and a good risk culture is one of the very foundations of an truly ethical company. First, I will have a short introduction about myself and my company, then talk about the importance of risk management and risk culture, then about risk identification, and then some takeaways. First of all, I work at AstraZeneca, which is a global pharmaceutical company. We are present all over the globe, and we have 3 main pillars. It's research and development, manufacturing, and marketing. And I myself is from the marketing side, where I work at our largest manufacturing site in Sweden, where we have 4,600 employees, and we manufacture many different types of pharmaceuticals. We also have one of the largest tablet factories in the world. Actually, we produce 12 to 13 billion tablets and capsules per year. But what is one of the most important takeaways from my company and where I work is that we produce more than 30 pharmaceuticals and supply more than 100 markets. And this means that it's highly complex environment, and the risk picture is a very, very broad one. And, a little bit about myself. I have a Master of Science in Chemical Engineering and a Licentiate of Engineering in Organic Chemistry. I've been working with AstraZeneca since 1998, holding a lot of different roles within quality assurance. But for the last 6 years, I've been working mainly with risk management, and for the last 3 years with business continuity as well. So, the importance of risk management. Why do we do risk management? Why just handle whatever pops up? But it is down to protecting your company. And when we look at AstraZeneca, when the main goals for our risk management is to protect our people. And that means that everybody who walks into the door, our doors in the morning, should walk out of the door as healthy as they were when they walked into the door. And we want to protect our patients. And that means that they should always receive good, high quality product with a safe product every time. And also about actually receiving it. It's not just about making good product, it's to be sure that we supply it as well. And then, of course, protecting our business. I'm talking about financial risks, environmental risks, reputational risks, etc. But if you want to have a good risk culture, and that means if you want to be sure to have a good or value-adding risk management, you need to have endorsement from senior management. If they don't walk the talk, you will not get much out of it down in the business. It is also important that risk management is integrated into decision-making and embedded into the ways of working of the business. It's not something that should be its own practices on the side just for the sake of it. And it's important that you have robust processes to report and escalate risks. And transparency. I can't talk enough about transparency. It has to be encouraged and promoted, because if you can't share mistakes, lessons learned, and feel that you're safe to raise whatever risk you can see and what concerns you have, your risk management program might be good to one level, but you won't get the full benefit from it. So it's also important that your company values and risk culture interact. So if I have the example of the company values of AstraZeneca, we have 5 basic company values where we follow the science, we put patient first, we play to win, we do the right thing, and we are entrepreneurial. And all these are facilitated by a transparent, open, and well-performed risk management culture. So, identifying risks. So how can you do to identify risks? Of course, there's a lot of things you can do. You can read book after book and go to seminars and courses on how to perform risk management. And of course, you should do that to learn the trade. But it is also very complex, and it can be really time consuming. So it's important to reflect on what will bring you value in your company or your part of the business. And it can be cumbersome. You can do risk management all day without getting so much more value than you could have if you don't go for the right level. So it's really important to reflect on that. And you need the engagement of the people performing it. And also having it as a part of your strategic work, as well as that is something that is everybody's business and everybody's job. And very importantly, make sure it's not a one-off activity. So when you identify risks, it's important to find the balance between controlled sessions or monitored sessions with ready-made input and brainstorming to sort of pick people's brain on what is good and what you can do. And really encourage thinking outside the box, so you not just go for the obvious ones that everybody already know about and probably already are managing. And it's also good to encourage crossing the boundaries into other people's responsibility, because if everybody goes down in their own silo and thinking about their own stuff, it's easy to get sort of blind for things outside. So if somebody on the side says, well, look at that, maybe you could think about that, could it be a risk connected to that? You often get input on things you don't see yourself. And encourage curiosity and an open mind. But before you go into more, if you talk about the more structured risk identification sessions, it's important to sort of really think about what you want to do. What are your objectives? What do you want to achieve? And what is the scope of the exercise? Is this a strategic risk identification exercise? Is it operational? Is it about a specific project or anything else? And what level of assurance are you aiming for? Is it high-level assurance, or is it down to every detail? It's important to know. And what is your risk appetite? What types of risk are you actually prepared to take, and which risks do you really need to mitigate? And if you have thought about this, it's much more easy to know when to do it, how often to do it, where you should do it, how to perform it, and who should participate in the exercises. And then we have sort of the soft side, the risk culture. And once again, I'm stressing this. It's important to have an open and transparent culture and think outside the box and be show and be transparent about your own thoughts and concerns. And that it is everybody's business, because it is about protecting your company and what you're making, and make everybody feel accountable for it. Then, looking at identifying risks. As I said, there are many different techniques. There are many ways to do it. But it all comes down to one question: what might go wrong? So, depending on the level of detail you have, where you are, what your targets are, you can choose different techniques. But it is all about what might go wrong. So now I'm going to talk about a way of working we are using for parts of our more periodic and strategical risk identification. And then we use something that we call the risk focus area assessment. And this is a sort of top-down exercise where we start actually on senior level to discuss and evaluate which business relevant main areas do we want to look into. In which areas does our risks lie? And then out from this, determine which those relevant areas are, because it creates awareness of possible areas of risks and provides stimulus for the risk identification when you move further down to the actual risk identification exercise. And it also identifies the risk categories, which requires more formal scrutiny during the risk identification, but also makes you aware or give you confidence that we don't have to look. You already decided that some areas, they are not relevant in our case for our part of the business, and then you can focus on where you actually make the difference. And if you look at AstraZeneca for now, these are the main focus areas, and this is not something that is set in stone. It is reviewed on a yearly or bi-yearly basis, but these are the areas where we want to look into. So it would be business environment, compliance, corporate governance, markets, nature, operations, finance, performance, and products and services. And my next slide, it is a bit busy, but I will try to talk you through it. Because when we then, after have decided on the main focus areas, work has been done to actually get into more detail what is included in these different areas, which is the risk focus area, because we have the main focus areas on the side, and then we have the risk focus areas connected to the main focus areas. And then we start the identification session with a good cross-functional team, and we have a look into it. So for instance, if we look at the operation finance part, you can see the risk focus areas connected to the main focus area of operations. We have communication, employees, finance, and then you can have a rather open and broad brainstorming on what risks do we have connected to these different areas. But then maybe after some time, you don't come up with many more ideas. And then you can actually sort of check back. And then we have moved to the right-hand side, where there's been a lot of thought and discussions and brought in intelligence from elsewhere, where we have possible hazards, what could happen, and what would be the possible impact of these hazards. So then you first have a more open brainstorming type of discussion, and then you look into sort of, you get knowledge from things that has been done before, and then you can check, is there anything we missed? Is there anything on this part that is relevant for us? Okay, and when you do this, you hopefully, and normally you get quite a lot of input on possible risk and possible risk topics. But the thing is, it's not just to leave it there and say, oh, we did this good thing, we identified a lot of risks. It's really important that you bring it all home, that you harvest what you collected. And generally you will need some time between meetings to collect and maybe bundle and put together and to see what you really got in of, all the good input you got. But then you need to get down to be more specific, because it's really easy to say, oh, single sourcing, that is a risk. But what is the risk? Is the risk that we will go out of business? Is the risk that we will not be able to supply for X amount of time? So it's really important to be specific. Risk of what exactly? And just using something as simple as an if and then statement can actually bring you more to a more concise and specific risk. I mean, if supplier X goes out of business, then we will not be able to supply medicine B. And after you've done this, you have good risk statements, which are good and concise. Then you need to evaluate those risks. And I strongly recommend that you have a harmonized scale on how you evaluate your risk, how you score them, so you can be able to compare the risk level from different parts of your operations. And when you evaluate them, you agree if you should mitigate or accept the risks. But also importantly, even if you have some small risk, it's good to see, well, I have this, rather small risk, but it seems now that when we look at it, that we have the same type of risk at 10 different places, and they might be small, each and every one of them, but should they be aggregated and maybe be collected, and we can see that there's a bigger risk for the company if we combine them all. And also have a discussion on what to escalate. You can't escalate all the risks you find to senior management and onwards. You need to decide what should be escalated and from what. How do you decide to escalate? But make sure to escalate, because communicating risk is a good way of showing that you know your business and know what needs to be done. So finally, some takeaways. Make your objectives clear on what you want to achieve with your risk management program, and really foster an open risk culture. And prepare for both the guided thinking and for the outside of the box thinking. And manage what you collect. Embrace it, but structure it and keep the discussion active. Thank you.